Hello everybody, Horst here again, bringing you a replay of myself versus Arrow B. Now this is an interesting game, I thought. It's a rematch of him versus me. We had played the game before this. I tried to 6-gate all in against him going mutaling because normally I have problems with that. You can see from the chat I am rather enthusiastic to be playing him again. Honestly, I would rather not, but that's the way the ladder works. So, we get a rematch, and I'm going to start with my same strategy I usually use for PvZ on maps where I can't fast expand. I'm going to go for a 3-gate opening. It's the basic strategy from all other of my strategies are derived in most cases. It's a really strong opener, just I like it in general. It feels good to use. But I have my scout probe going around checking out what he's doing. He's got gas first, which could mean a number of things, none of them good for me. But I'm going to pylon block him at 15, 14 around there. Check back, see a pool going down over in my base. I just threw up gas, got my gate going. I'll have a core going down here. Core before Zealot because I noticed a late pool. So I'll have plenty of time to get my Zergling, to get my Zealot out before Zerglings get to me. Second gas after my core, and then a Zealot. I want to chrono boost it so I can get a little block there as soon as possible. I notice he still hasn't killed this, so his expansion is delayed significantly, which is a good thing for me. But I'm just doing the normal thing, getting warp gates up, getting sentries now that I have my one Zealot to block. I'll just need a bunch of sentries. Throw down a couple more pylons, so I know this one is dying, and I would rather not be supply blocked. I managed to avoid going red, but I'm still supply blocked a little. Throw down my other gateway right about now. And keep making sentries out of my gates. While mining gas, continuing to make probes. If we check the production tab, I'll leave that open in case I miss anything. But I've been having a lot of problems lately with mutaling openers from the Zerg. The Zerg comes at you with a bunch of mutas, you spend all your time defending it, and by the time you get a decent defense, he has 4 bases and he can switch to any tech he wants and just annihilate you. It's very, very difficult for me to deal with, so I've been trying to figure out a strategy to help me with that, and I think this does. Now, I see he has a lot of speedlings, but I have sentries up here, so all I have to do is wait for the right moment where he's all up there, and I have a sentry within range to cast a force field so I can trap him and kill them all. If he gets too gutsy and pokes, and I'm paying attention, I can kill a whole bunch of those. But I see he has a lot of Zerglings, so I throw a forge down before I expand because I want to have a quick cannon when I expand. My expansion will be delayed slightly, but his economy is hurt slightly because he made so many Zerglings instead of drones. I do not think it's that big a deal to wait a little bit longer to come out. Now here, I do get the trap off, and I managed to kill a whole mess of Zerglings. These are all going to die now. So once these are all dead, I can expand freely, and I really am in no danger at all from the Zerglings anymore. If you check the units tab, he has 5 Zerglings on the field. We're fairly even in probes, but he does have an expansion up. I probably could push him now. Not really, he has crawlers. So I'm just going to go expand. I am not overly aggressive with my initial force. I've seen a lot of players that are. I tend to overextend myself and get into trouble, and I'd rather just not do that. So I'll usually wait until I have a cannon up down here with a couple of buildings to partially wall before I push out anywhere. Last thing I want is a whole mess of Zerglings running into my base, destroying me. For all I know, he could be doing a Zergling all in at this point and just remassing. If we go back to the production tab, I hit pause by accident. I gotta learn these hotkeys. Production tab, I've started with weapons level 1, getting more sentries out. Now I have 4 gates up. Usually I get 4 or 5 gates after I expand, so I have my 4 now. I'm also starting hallucinate research. I really do like scouting with the hallucination. I have so many sentries, I have so much energy, it really doesn't hurt me at all to hallucinate a phoenix or 2 to see what he's doing, and it gives me great scouting the entire game as long as I have sentries, which I normally do. So I'll usually have a great sense of what he's doing. Now, I am anticipating mutas because I saw nothing but a lot of speedlings at the beginning. So I'll put an extra cannon here, I'll put a cannon back here. I think that's a pylon to power some more cannons. But it will give me enough cannons to hold off any kind of aggression. You see he tries to go in here, doesn't help. Over here he catches me as I'm transferring, but because I have a cannon here, I'm in no real danger. Throw a force field down to partially block it so he can't surround my cannon, and it'll just pick off the Zerglings easily. So I'm going to go out and just do a little pressure push with my sentry force. Really do not want to commit to it, I just want to go out and see what he's doing. And that's about all. Hallucinate is almost done. And transferring workers over now. If you look at the units tab, I am actually ahead in probes. He is starting to get a lot of roaches out. He is getting a lot of crawlers. There's no way I can attack that with this force. I would need immortals or something to crack that. But he is also getting a spire out, which I do not know about yet, but I will hallucinate to find out right now. And there it is. I can see a spire. Now, my reaction in this game was, I need air units, but phoenixes are not ideal because they kind of suck against roaches. So my thought was, I'll just get a bunch of void rays. When I have a bunch of void rays supported on the ground by sentries and a couple of stalkers, basically forces him to go Hydraless because really mutas can't stand up against it. Now, I may have overreacted a tad bit here and gone with the 3 Stargates. I probably only needed 2. But the thing is, if he all of a sudden goes mass muta, I want the capability to pump out Phoenix real fast. The extra 150 it cost me to build another Stargate is worth it to have that additional production time, at least in my opinion. So, continue scouting. He's still just massing up roaches. Let's see, what is he actually doing in production? I keep hitting pause. I gotta stop that. He's getting a couple of mutas, nothing too much. I do have cannons around my base to protect me. I should have cannons up here, but I don't yet because cannons are expensive. I don't really know he's committing to mutas, so I didn't really commit to cannons. Void rays, however, are good against anything that comes out of him besides void rays. Besides Hydralisks, pretty much. And I didn't see any hint of Hydratech. Void rays are actually quite decent against mutas as well. They're not the greatest, but they're useful. Now, one key thing I did here was quick air weapons. Well, not really quick, but relatively quick air weapons. The air weapons give a huge boost to the void rays because they have such a quick recharge rate in the attack, 0.6. So every +1 makes a huge difference. But I did recently scout over here. I saw no base. Feeling confident the Zerg is on 2 base. I can just 2 base. I mean, there's no rush for me to grab a third. They're not his third if he's only sticking on 2. Because 2 base toss will beat 2 base Zerg pretty much all the time. I do have cannons up, so he's not going to do too much damage with only a couple of mutas. Once he gets a big ball of mutas, he can roll over cannons. But if I see him committing to that huge ball of mutas, again, I can switch to mass Phoenix production and be pretty fine. And here the Void Rays have a pretty good mobility, even though they're so slow. They are flying units, so they can just cross over walls and stuff to engage the mutas while the rest of my army helps and closes in. The mutas don't do enough damage to kill the voids very quickly unless he has a huge ball of them. And he's starting to take his third now. I will start to take mine as well. I'm starting to get a huge amassment of Void Rays. Now I have +1 ground weapons and +1 air weapons. And if we look at my perspective, I don't know he's taking a third yet. But I know he's trying to harass me with mutas. So I'm just going to go out and take a peek around and see what I can do. I haven't seen any hint of Hydras or anything to scare me, so I'm pretty fearless at this point of my army. No matter what happens, I can probably force field and run away if it's too horrible. But I do see his base here, so I'm going to poke in and kill it before he can really react, and then just run out. Continue back at the base, massing up more Void Rays, getting a couple more Gateway units. Stray Mutalisk, just happen to pick it off the map. He is spreading his creep a little bit well, so I'm going to need to get observers pretty soon. Warping more pylons so I have more supply, and taking my third finally. So I'm taking my third, and his third is dead, which is very good for me. And I'm starting to amass a huge force of voids. I push up, I don't really see anything. There's nothing coming out at me yet, so nothing too scary. Now I do put a couple of cannons here, protect my third. The cannons won't really defend me completely, but the hope is they'll buy me enough time to come in with voids. Now I've started going Robotech because I know he must be going Hydralisk at this point. I have a lot of Void Rays. This is pretty mass. And I don't really see anything scary being built. Do I have observers yet? No, I should make some. And I'm doing that now. Now let's go in to kill this Overlord. And a couple of cannons here, a couple of cannons there. Create a perimeter around my base to deter anything from being overly scary. If we look at the relative army size, my army is slightly bigger. He does have a higher supply. This is the case with most Zerg armies. Now I'm starting to make Colossus. And really, you see, he couldn't poke in with mutas and kill me, so he's trying the Hydralisks. Void Rays apparently are surprisingly good against Hydralisks. Guardian shields go up. My ground army is actually doing very well over here against the mutas, while the Void Rays tear into those Hydralisks. Void Rays are actually very, very good for their supply. So if you have enough of them, you can just roll over Zerg. Most Zerg are accustomed to being the defender, not the aggressor, because the mindset of the Protoss, most of them on the ladder anyway, is to go out and kill the Zerg. So if you don't go out and kill the Zerg and you sit back and mass something, they are not prepared for it. They don't understand what to do against it. It's unusual for them. So when you have a strategy like this that actually sits back and is defensive, it can take them by surprise. Of course, that doesn't mean at any point that I was overly weak, because I had a fairly decent army this whole entire time. He would have had to switch to Hydras much quicker in order to catch me off guard, and even if he had done that, I think I had enough sentries and Void Rays to hold it off. I could have force fielded half of them out and focused on him at a choke point like here or here with my Void Rays and sentries. But it's important to retreat and back up with Colossus. Force field to trap a couple of them, cut them off from the rest. Kill what you can, and just go around looking for expansions. You do not want the Zerg getting up an expansion. But you can see he's starting to remass his army. I still have the advantage because, well, he lost his whole army and I did not. But this is the Protoss Death Ball of Doom right here. This will stop any Zerg in its tracks. The Void Ray, Colossus, Stalker Force is brutal. You can see I have more Colossus coming. So yeah, my goal at this point is just to take a third. I know he doesn't have a third. At least I don't think he does. Oh, he did get a third here, and he has a fourth here. I'm going to find out about the fourth very soon right here. And I suspect he has a base here. You'd have to be bad not to have a base there at this point. But now that I have 3 Colossus, plenty of Void Rays, and plenty of ground forces, I can push out without fear, really. Against a mass roach army, you need a lot more Colossus to deal the damage to kill the roaches. But with the Void Rays, the Hydras are the real threat the Colossus need to focus on. And 3 Colossus really is enough to kill a whole mess of Hydralisks. You don't really need more than maybe 5 Colossus at most, if you have this many Voids. But we'll just take out his expansion here. Because I'm worried about counterattacks, I'm not going to bother killing these extractors. I'm just going to pull back right after I kill that, while setting up my own fourth. And we'll go right up the middle here. Obviously, at this point, I have a huge advantage, both in army size, army value, tech, pretty much everything. And just tears right through him. The Void Ray is doing a great job. His army just melts. So we'll have a final engagement. Again, when you're killing a Zerg, you want to peel like an onion. You go for the outer lying expansions first. You go for the inside first, he can flank you from his expansions and can sometimes kill you. He tries to cut off my reinforcements, but my reinforcement waves are much stronger than what he tried to cut them off with, so he ends up leaving the game. But I thought this was an interesting way to counter Muta Roach. Instead of going for Phoenix or Immortals or anything like that, you go for Void Rays into Colossus with sentries and stalkers on the ground. It seems to make sense to me because it's fairly mobile, and it can really give any Zerg unit a run for its money. The Void Ray is, at the very worst, a decent damage dealing unit.